This episode was recorded live at the 2023 Hunt Fish Podcast Summit. Podcasters and guests from across the country come together to talk about their passions for hunting, fishing, and conservation. This year's summit is brought to you by Waypoint TV, Ron Hoover Marine of Galveston, Spot Stalker Guide Service, the Wild Sheep Foundation, Galveston Fishing Company, Captain Experiences, and Badger Claw Outfitters.
Thanks, Tristan.
Just first off, Derek, I salute you for your vision for this and in giving all of us an opportunity to do some awesome things and meet people that are like-minded. And it's the third year, hard to believe, right? Really, really awesome stuff. But if you don't know, my name is Chester Moore, and I can give you a list this long of the stuff I do. But my main thing is I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm an advocate for children and a wildlife conservation. So somehow I make my living in wildlife journalism. So that's like a big list, but that's kind of my priority set, kind of in order there. And I want to talk to you about a topic tonight that is very un-outdoors seemingly, but at the heart of it, I think it's kind of what we need to hear, including me. And that is the topic of love. It's not something you typically think, in a macho hunting magazine or a podcaster that we're going to talk about love, but I think it's something that everyone in this room can relate to. And I want to start with a story someone told me. There was this little boy, and he was 10 years old, and his father would never take him fishing. He completely ignored his will to go fishing, him and his brothers and sisters. And this little boy desired nothing more than to go fishing with his daddy. And he begged him, and he begged him. And his dad, they were a very, very poor family, would gamble away what money they had and just didn't want to take interest in his kid doing something. So this kid had an idea. He took a string and he tied that string to the front door and he ran it around his toe and went to sleep. And he said, as soon as my dad goes out the door, it's always right before daylight to go fishing, I'll get awakened and I'm going to go beg him I can go fishing. Well, on this particular day, the dad saw the string, followed it in the room, and said, son, let's go fishing. He got to go fishing. That was his very first time, and he absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with the great outdoors. Didn't have a lot of great memories of hunting and fishing with his dad, but he had memory of tying a string to a door. And his dad saying, finally, let's go fishing. That boy remembers one time in his life ever getting a Christmas gift. And it was a wind-up caterpillar. And he remembers the wind-up caterpillar. He remembers the string in the door. And that was my dad. That's my dad's story. Now, my dad, who's gone now, was way different than that. I think as soon as I came out of the birth canal, he planned fishing trips. I mean, he was taking me fishing and hunting, and just me driving him absolutely insane, asking him questions like, Dad, you think there are any deer in the woods behind the house? Not anymore, son. Dad, do we have wild turkeys in Orange County? Dad, have you ever caught a great white shark at the beach? I mean, just all the pressing questions that I would do. But my dad took me every single time. It was a fitting, safe trip for me to go on. And I certainly wouldn't be standing here without my dad and his love he expressed very often through the great outdoors. I think about that string all the time because I never had to do that. Matter of fact, he would pester me to go sometimes. Like, when I discovered young ladies in high school. And I love the outdoors, but there was priorities. You're like, Dad, you really need to go. Dad, leave me alone. I'm going to go on a date. The redfish are running at the beach. And I'm like, okay, that kind of stuff. But I got to thinking back to this and thinking about the impact of what the outdoors experience can mean for all of us in here. Because, man, I love being in a place like this, dude. I could sit here and stare at this all day and wonder questions like, I wonder where that bit came from, or I wonder why somebody shot a porcupine, or wonder if I can call in a coyote or whatever. I can just, these things endlessly are fascinating. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, it's not going to matter the Boone and Crockett score, the Pope and Young score, what tippet you caught it on, none of those things. What really going to matter is the experience you had, what you do with that experience, and how we can take that experience out to other people. And here at the Hunt Fish Podcast Summit, we have many ways to be able to translate that. The interpersonal experience, the experience of sharing this in the media, which is a great thing. And I get the privilege to do that. But I want to tell you some stories where I've seen love make incredible differences in the great outdoors. We have an outreach of our ministry called Higher Calling Wildlife. And Higher Calling Wildlife mentors teens with special challenges to become conservationists. And the idea behind that is that teens facing unbelievable challenges need a pursuit they can sink their teeth into, and something they can do no matter their condition. And what all of them have is a smartphone and a social media platform. And we're teaching them to go through expeditions we do, to go out into the wild, to take pictures, to learn about that North American model of conservation, to learn what we do and spread the word of conservation through media. We have some that use artwork. We have some that use photography, and we take them on these expeditions. I had a privilege of taking a young man on an expedition last October in my favorite place on planet Earth, Estes Park, Colorado. And of course, if anyone knows me, they know if I'm in Estes Park and I'm doing photography, that's what, well, not technically, that's a desert bighorn, Rocky Mountain bighorn. That's what we're gonna try to do. Well, we scouted the day before, and I found some bighorns in the Big Thompson Canyon, and wasn't really a good place to take a teen who's never been in the mountains. It just wasn't the best spot I found them in. So we go into Rocky Mountain National Park, and I found a bunch of mule deer. I found a few elk, and we found one moose. And so I meet this family, and I was told, this young man who went through a lot, that he may not speak to me because he doesn't like men. I said, he'll talk to me. So one of the cool things is, one of the first kids to ever do any of our ministry work with us, Amos, came with us. He's 18 now. He wanted to start helping our kids that he got helped. So he came with me. And Amos, if you're watching this, you little redneck hunting fool, I love you. And Amos is mad about hunting. So he's glassing and scouting and all this kind of stuff. And so he was kind of assigned with this young man, and we're driving through the park, and what is the first animal I run across? A really big Rocky Mountain bighorn. And it was on a spot I couldn't park anywhere near it. So I dropped them two off, and they go out with the camera and everything, and then his mom and grandma are in the Suburban with me, and we find a place about a quarter mile away where it's safe to park, and she looks at me and she said, "He's talking to you." Told you would. The true answer is the Holy Spirit opens up these opportunities. But the medium that we choose to use is the great outdoors. And there's something about stepping into the grandeur of the great outdoors and seeing a mountain with snow-covered peaks and seeing that these animals you see on television are real. And here's this kid firing away shots at this Rocky Mountain bighorn. He looks back at me and goes, "This is pretty cool, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, this is pretty cool." Well, that went from, this is the first animal I've ever photographed in my life, to I'm cocky now. So there was some mule deer fighting. And I'm trying messing with putting my bigger lens on, and he's running up to these muleys hold on, not real safe. We're not gonna do this now. And I saw this enthusiasm grow in the kid. Now, this was the most challenging kid I've ever ministered to. He wasn't real vocal most of the time, but he had his moments. But at the very end of all this, I drop him off at his home. He looks at me. This kid likes street cred, right? He thinks he's pretty cool. He goes, "Yo, dog, can we get a selfie for Instagram?" That was my thank you. How does that tie into love? We flew to Colorado for that one kid to take him on that expedition. And whatever happened that day, he knew that people, no matter what happened, cared about him enough to spend time with him, show him really cool stuff. I don't know if he'll ever hunt or he'll ever fish. One of our sponsors sent him a new Canon Rebel camera set so him and his family can go up in the mountains. They live really close. But somehow he knew that someone loved him and spent time with him in the great outdoors. And that love thing is done. Love is an action word, you know. The most famous scripture of all time has very significant meaning in Exodus 3:16. John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth on him will not perish but have an everlasting life. In the Greek, that word love is agape. It's a sacrificial, action-based love. And we have, all of us, and I know these guys know this, incredible opportunities to show love through action in the outdoors, because time is what's important here. People will give their money before their time. Time is the one thing you can't reproduce. And when you show someone who's spit on, who's hated, who's marginalized, who thinks that maybe they've went through hell 4 or 5 times on earth, that you love them by showing time, it has an incredible thing. And I really believe, because I'm seeing it, that some of the greatest conservationists that ever will live will come because someone took the time to go to the least, whether they're an adult that's been through PTSD and killed people in wars and saw their friends blown up, or, a little girl who's been gang raped. All of these things. This outdoors thing is such a beautiful place, because you know why? That white-tailed deer out there doesn't look at that little girl and go, oh, she's the poor kid who got raped. That deer just looks at her like anyone else. The mountains don't judge. The streams don't judge. And we can take people and expose them to these things, and incredible things will happen. Now, these stories I'm telling, I'm not using names because I don't like telling names of kids and things, but we had a young girl that was brought to us that had been savagely raped multiple times. And her favorite animal was a wolf. A friend of mine has wolves, and he has a really sweet one named Josie. And we took her over there, and he has it set up where you go to his encounter thing. He can open it up, and Josie sticks her head through. And this girl sticks her head right here, and Josie, the gray wolf, comes right here, and out comes the tongue and licking on the face. And I watched this kid who, you could see the weight wash off, because they looked into the eyes of wildness, and wildness looked back at them, not with judge or scorn, but hey, you're pretty cool. And I saw a weight come off of a young girl, right? Love, that was a perfect expression of love. And the idea of quality time and changing the dynamic of the outdoors, because here's the thing, we're humans. Right? We all screw up. None of us are perfect. The last perfect guy, they hung on a cross. What happens is we are, and especially all of us intense individuals that are goal get. We need these people in the world to make things happen, but the outdoors can become a thing where it's I notched this off my list. I notched this off my list. I did this. I did this. And if at the end of the day, all we've ever done is got the Grand Slam, which I hope to get one day, or the Grand Turkey Slam, or the Flat Slam, or whatever, that's cool. But if we didn't take that resource of time and love and invest it in someone else, is it really making that much of an impact? I don't think so. And I'm challenging all of us, including yours truly right here, to do more of that. Because I've seen it work, guys. I have seen it in the most incredible ways. Rihanna Holloway, I'll use her name, because she's cool with this story now. Rihanna Holloway came to us. I met her in Texas Children's Hospital, and because her best friend, who was in our WISH program, was dying. They were pulling life support the next morning. We lost our Madison the next morning. And I literally sit down, crying like a baby, in the only seat available. And before I sit down, the lady in front of me, who I didn't know, says, I sure hope the Make-A-Wish for my daughter's sea turtle encounter works out, because I can't find her a sea turtle. If I'd sat down 5 seconds later, I wouldn't have heard that. So I know who orchestrated this meeting. And I said, ma'am, excuse me, did you say something about your daughter meeting a sea turtle? She goes, yeah, my daughter has cystic fibrosis. She's 18 years old, about to graduate high school, and her dream is to meet a sea turtle. I said, look, Make-A-Wish is a great organization. Please keep working on that with them. But my name's Chester Moore. We have a program called Wild Wishes that grants wildlife encounters to kids like your kid. And I promise you, Rihanna will meet a sea turtle. 6 weeks later, we're at Moody Gardens, arranged a special sea turtle encounter with the one sea turtle they had. And they let her go to the top of the aquarium and go down where the divers go and feed the sharks. And it was amazing. So 2 weeks later, Rihanna calls me. Mr. Chester, is losing a parent also qualify for the WISH program? I'm like, yeah, so my best friend Lauren just lost her daddy. She wants to meet a sea turtle too. I'm like, oh sweet, I already know where one is. She goes, but she wants to release an injured rehabbed sea turtle. And I'm going, oh boy. So a month later, Rihanna and her friend Lauren are standing knee deep in the waters of Port Aransas, Texas with the Amos Research Keep, releasing injured, rehabbed green sea turtles. And these mega smiles are on their faces. And you never noticed, you never guessed that Ree was sick, and everything worked. She started college, kind of bombed out the first semester, and called me and my wife, Lisa. And she says, I want to talk to you. I want you to meet with me and my family and talk about my life. And I like to say I was so faith-filled that I didn't get scared. But when a kid like that tells you this, you get nervous. So we go meet with her. And she sits down and looks at me very sternly, as Rihanna Holloway always looks at me very sternly. And she goes, that WISH thing changed my life. I want to help wildlife conservation. How do I do it? So that began 2 months of wrestling over the phone, text message, and everything, Rihanna, on different conservation paths. Well, our wonderful, incredible friends at the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department let me take a boy to photograph desert bighorn to Elephant Mountain Wildlife Management Area. And I called. I said, hey, I got this girl. She wants to get involved in conservation. Can I take her out there and we photograph sheep? I gave them a weekend. They said, we can do that. But how about you take her on a bighorn capture? Holy smokes. So me and my wife and my daughter Faith and Rihanna took off from Orange, Texas, 12-hour drive to Alpine, Texas. And she got to see them take their sheep off the top of the mountain on tethers on the helicopter. And the biologists there, they were so kind to her, rolled out the red carpet. And all these people wanting to take part in the sheep thing, including me. And they let her take the ear clippings. They let them take blood samples. And the biggest ram of the day that came in, they caught 75 that day. They said, your girl's up. And she got to put the collar on the big ram of the day. I'm incredibly happy to report that I talked to Rihanna last week, and on December the 6th, she graduates from Texas Tech University with a wildlife management degree. She's healthy, doing great, and wants to help wildlife. That I had even a smidgen part of that is amazing. Hey, look, I'm an accoladed guy. I got an accolade list like this. I'm very blessed. That accolade trumps the rest of that because it matters. Hope. When I was in school, I was bullied, marginalized, I was ugly, weird, stupid, a freak for liking animals and having long hair, and went through all kind of crazy stuff. Yet when I was out in the deer blind, I felt at peace. And I know by looking in your eyes, everyone here goes out there and their smiles, they're at peace. There's no stress, there's no worries, there's no boss bickering, there's no bad reports. There's this incredible creation that God created for all of us, and we get to experience this. Think about this. We get to experience the best of creation. I mean, I watched my buddy Paul today catch the biggest bass of his life, saw it out there in the dock, and we're just having a great time and seeing wild turkeys, and what do you see, ducks, or moose or bears. It always excites. I've never seen someone talk about this stuff without smiles. But yet our culture has a different report. 11 to 14-year-olds, the highest suicide rate growth in America. We've ministered to 3 kids in the last year under 11 years old that ended up in the hospital with suicide attempts. Antidepressants, you name it, it's everything's rising, anxiety. And what have we to test ourselves from? 2 things, God and wildlife. That's what we have to test ourselves from. No, but whatever you believe, that's fine. I got friends all over the spectrum, but that's my belief. And I see it in the great outdoors. I have yet to pass a woodlot or a forest and not wonder what in the heck lives out there. Like, there might be a bobcat out there. You know, what is that? Is there a grizzly in the mountain? I mean, wherever I'm at, I'm always like, what's out there? And I relate it back to fishing. You know, like, I like to fly fish, which I'm not very good at, but I manage to catch fish somehow. I've caught sturgeon, and I've caught Welsh catfish and peacock bass and all this cool stuff. But yet, take my daughter to a pond, a little red, white, and blue bobber, and I'm excited to see what's on the other end of that thing pulling on it. And I think the day that we lose wanting to see a bobber go under, we need to quit. We need to stay connected to that. So there's got to be a call to action here. And I think the action is being intentional, you know, with how we express that love and take people that need to go. And a lot of times we don't like to get in other people's business at work or family because we look sad. We don't want to get involved because it feels awkward. Let's go ahead and get over the awkward stuff. Someone may be going to do this. Your invite might change their life. You don't know what that kid in the neighborhood went through. But you taking them fishing or squirrel hunting or whatever it is could be a destiny-altering experience because you expressed the love of time. Time. My dad died on a deer hunt with me 9 years ago, this December 27th in South Texas. On that hunt, he talked about the string on the door and remembered it. That was a very positive memory that his dad finally took him. And it was a very interesting thing because the rancher had told, my dad already killed a buck, the second biggest buck was alive the night before. And rancher said, I want you to shoot javelinas if you see one, this one stand. Well, my dad shot a fox years ago and cried because the thing was flipping out, going crazy, and he didn't really want to shoot it. So he said, I'm never going to kill anything I'm not going to use. If I'm not going to use it for a pelt or eat it, I'm not going to shoot it. He didn't want a javelina. So he said there's like 40 javelinas. He said, I'm going to get a picture for my son with his camera, and his kids, we'll frame it in his little center for the kids. They probably never seen the javelina, and they all ran off. And he puts the camera in and goes, I had the gun up, and they stayed. I get the camera, they leave. But then a lone javelina walked out, posed for him, took a picture. He showed me the picture. I said, that's really cool. We go out to skin his deer, and my dad has a heart attack and passes away. On the way out of the ranch that night, I had a 7-hour drive home from Jim Hogg County, and my whole world just been rocked. And I said, Lord, I know you're there. I know he's with you. I didn't know it's going to be all right. I pull out of the ranch gate, and a lone javelina came and stood in front of my car and wouldn't move. And somehow that helped me pull through that because we bonded on the outdoors experience. And he expressed his love to me, for taking me in the great outdoors. And so did other people. And it was such a powerful thing. That's why I'm so rabid about it. It's been a thing in my life that I can't get enough of. And I don't have all the answers by not even a long shot, but I have one of them. And that is, we need to go bring others with us. Our voices through broadcasting and podcasting, put those inspirational moments and stories and things, and let people know how to connect, give them an on-ramp. My friend Paul with Aptitude Outdoors is really getting into promoting like beginner startup information so people know. My friend Kat, who's here, came to the Great Women Hunt program, is a very young hunter, and she found an on-ramp. We need to be on-ramps. We need to be inspirational and take that time, right? It's not gonna hurt you to not go deer hunting by yourself. One extra time, bring somebody with you, right? We can do this. You may never see the fruit of it here, but one day. And I just know this in my life. I don't ever want to be the guy who had a kid in my life I could have helped, and that kid gets desperate enough to tie a string on a door, right? I want to be someone who takes the time to show them love, because that is what will change it. That's what'll do it. That's why I'm standing here. 2 reasons. Love got a man to walk up on a hill 2,000 years ago. And love from a dad, and also a mom who greatly supported what I did, let me know, even when I was going through all this crazy stuff in my school years, it was okay, and I could do great things. I've done a few of them. A lot more left to go. But I think even greater things are ahead for everyone in this room. I really do. I think we're at a precipice of the outdoors where the darkness of our culture is so dark, they're looking for light, and a beautiful place to see that is in the great outdoor. We have the power about loving them and showing them what they can do, where they can go, and being an agent of change. You know, it's easy to curse the darkness. I do plenty of it. Trust me, I get frustrated. It's harder to shine a light. I think the light of love shines really bright in the great outdoors. Whether you're sitting with a kid on a dock, that little court catching brim, or you take that veteran out that is so damaged, they're afraid of doing anything, and you let them know it's gonna be okay, and they get to go shoot that first buck of theirs. Whatever it is, we have the power to do it through our media and through our life. So God bless you guys. Thanks for listening. And let's have a good summit. Thank you.